Hi, everybody. This is Stephen Osborne for Aftermatch Wrestling, and I just wanted to pop on here a little bit after Raw and give my thoughts on what I think was the biggest development coming out of Raw, and that was, or the biggest story, or the most noteworthy part of Raw, and that was the return of the curb stomp. And at first, I thought it was the return of the curb stomp, but after further thought, I actually am. I'm kind of thinking this is a one-off use of the curb stomp, and that there is a reason behind it. And I will go ahead and give my, if you could call it, prediction as to where they're going with this curb stomp, because, like probably many of you, at the end of Raw, I was sitting there wondering why on earth were we sitting there watching Finn Balor reel from a curb stomp for like over a minute after the match. At first I thought, well, maybe, maybe they went too fast and they had time to fill, but it's Raw. It always goes after 11. You can cut it off at 11:03 or you can cut it off at 11:07, I'm sure they have the ability to do that because whatever comes on after it is pre-taped. Pre-taped. Well, it's taped. Uh, I think that this is a work. They worked Seth Rollins using the curb stomp because Seth Rollins has previously stopped using the curb stomp. It makes sense. And I'm sorry about the video here. I gotta use both hands. Seth Rollins stopped using the curb stomp because he considered it a dangerous move. I don't know if it was him personally deciding that or if it was WWE. They considered it a liability move. Although I'm not sure there was any actual reports of anybody getting injured from the move. I believe the move that he injured Finn Balor with in the famous first Universal Championship match was his buckle bomb, but into the barricade. And I know they haven't gotten rid of the buckle bomb. I feel like they should get rid of the buckle bomb. I don't think that's a safe move. No matter how good either the person delivering it or the person that it's taking its intentions are, all it takes is a minor error from one or the other, either person, and that person's actual neck could go into the corner. And I mean, there's whiplash, there's concussion, there's all kinds of, there's vertebrae that can be damaged. I think if performed correctly, there should be no risk with the curb stomp. Wrestlers go from a mid-level position with their head to the mat all the time with even more weight. I mean, they take DDTs that start them off further up than that. I believe that if executed properly, the curb stomp both looks devastating and is not actually devastating. I think the reason they brought it back, though, whether it actually is or isn't actually dangerous, is because there's storyline here. And they played up before the match. Finn Balor had a promo, which I thought was weird as well, because this match was basically put together halfway through the show for the main event. That's weird enough, that the main event gets put together halfway through the show in some weird segment where Jason Jordan actually suggested the main event, which is weird too. But that Finn Balor, like, what did they do? Run and catch up to Finn Balor in the 30, 45 minutes that they had in between the match being made and the match happening, and get his thoughts on the match. Well, he basically played up the fact that it was the second match between the two of them since the Universal title match, which makes sense to say. And he didn't throw Seth Rollins' character under the bus in the fact that he's a face now and dig into him about the injury, because he could. If Rollins was a heel now or still a heel, of course he'd play up on the injury that Seth Rollins caused him, but since they're both faces, he can't do that. So he reminded everybody of the injury that Seth Rollins caused him, but he did say accidents happen. He said he made it a point to say accidents happen, like he's it's water under the bridge. I know you didn't mean to injure me. So that was before the match. After the match, they just sat on Finn Balor in the ring with the Bullet Club trying to help him up. There was no doctors, so obviously it's not real. None of the trainers came out. They weren't checking on him. This was work. And the reason it's work is because Seth Rollins, in order to secure the victory that he couldn't secure the first time, because I believe the first time he was no longer using the curb stomp. I think I could be wrong on that. Um, I think it was just, well, I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but either way, he never got to perform it on him. So I think Finn Balor is going to take exception to the fact that Seth Rollins would use what they could call banned. He could call it a banned move. There's enough precedent for him to put it into kayfabe. That it is even if it's not banned. I don't know for sure whether it's banned or not, or if it was just a decision not to use it. But he's going to throw that in there, and it's going to either push him over the edge to turning heel, which at this point I was hoping for, but I think possibly this is going to put Rollins over as a heel. That Rollins would use, I mean, because Rollins stopped using the move. He knew he wasn't supposed to use it. He knew that it was one of those moves. It'd be like anybody but the Undertaker pulling out a tomb, or Undertaker or Kane pulling out a pile driver. And of course, I think we all know the difference between a pile driver and a tombstone. For all practical purposes, I'd say a tombstone is a non-move. If it's done by somebody like the Undertaker or Kane, where their thigh uh, length or their femur bone is so long that your head's not even going to touch the mat. You hold on tight, they hold on tight, your head doesn't even touch the mat. But it'd be like anybody but them Mick Foley, if Mick Foley was taking a bump. Certain people are allowed to deliver pile drivers. Otherwise, it's a move you don't use. So, like, if this had occurred after a pile driver from anybody else, so say they did a pile driver and pinned him because they knew that a semi-illegal move or a frowned upon or banned move is the only way to win. Well, that's what this is. This is Seth Rollins' banned move. This is, like somebody pointed out earlier in a thread on Facebook, I believe, or it might have been DoDQ Live. This is like Orton whipping out the RKO, or not the RKO, but the punt to the head. Because you know that if he punts somebody in the head, that's a pin. It doesn't matter who it is. I could say it's Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton punt to the head is going to not only pin him, but is writing in a storyline where he's going to be out for several weeks, if not several months. So Rollins uses the curb stomp for the first time in like a year and 10 months, and it's big news. Yeah, it's big news. But the bigger news is the 90 seconds that they panned around looking straight at Finn Balor trying to get up in the ring while the announcers are talking about how let's say foobarred he is. He's fucked up. He just got fucked up, and they made sure to point out the red mark above his eye where he took the bump. But I think in a properly done, and I went back and watched the replay of that a couple of times from other angles, and it didn't look like anything that's actually did some damage, some for real, in real life damage. So this is a work, and I believe the reason why is because probably Seth Rollins is turning heel, or he's going to be painted as a heel and just go ahead and, well, fuck it. If y'all are going to boo for me, I might as well earn the boos. But no, I believe Finn Balor is fine. This is just a twist in the storyline. Jordan tripped up Balor and that led to the victory for Seth. I'm not sure. I didn't really see in the match. It didn't look like Seth saw uh, Jason Jordan trip up Finn Balor, but he definitely benefited from it, and that's all it requires for that to be something that is, I would say, until next Monday, if they expand upon it, it is I guess it's part of his storyline. He cheated to win, technically speaking, even though it was Jason Jordan doing it without his approval necessary. Who knows? Maybe he did have approval. Maybe we'll find that out later, but I don't think so. But it's still attributed to his win. So that's just my 2 cents on it. The only other thing I wanted to really rant on about Raw tonight that I figured I'd get in here was it kind of upsets me that it took them what 3, 4, 5 weeks after the revival was ready to go before they just decided to go with the old squash nobody wrestler gimmick and send them out there against a couple of jobbers and let them squash them. And it's probably going to happen every week on Raw until they're ready and primed with some kind of storyline for these guys. They held them off of TV. They could have put him out there in a squash match any number of the last several weeks during one of the times where they have a promo or a review of something that happened earlier on in the night. They could have been doing this and building them up for several weeks now, and that's just it's WWE for you, man. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you agree, disagree, if you want to leave any comments, please, somebody, as I always say, talk to me about wrestling. Bye, guys.